Hi, and welcome to Lecture 1 of Week 5. Today we're going to talk about the topics of environmental refugees and the emerging politics of food scarcity. Over the last weeks we have talked about physical factors in the earth that would create areas that are unsustainable for people to live in those places anymore. Part of the reason that people can't live there anymore if they've had to deal with the loss of topsoil, the loss of fertile soil, the loss of their land to desertification or land grabs. In many of these areas there isn't technology, there isn't the infrastructure and other political and logistical things that would allow resources, even jobs and companies, to be brought into these areas. So because of the physical factors we've talked about, we have what are called environmental refugees, and these are people that have to leave their land because they're no longer sustainable. One example of an event that would cause environmental refugees is flooding. On the deltas in Bangladesh, they wait for the monsoons to come in the spring so that it will flood the land and it will water it so that they can grow their crops. But some of the monsoons that we're seeing now, because of the different factors of climate, are more severe than they were before, and they have to leave the land. An example from the United States would have been Hurricane Katrina, where it came into New Orleans, and because it was so severe, the levees broke and it flooded New Orleans. There are places that people couldn't go back to, and I lived in Houston at the time, and a lot of the people who lived in New Orleans, who lost everything in Katrina, came to Houston and they ended up settling there. Some areas can be rebuilt and others can't. So the people who are affected by these events have to go somewhere else, and we're seeing populations along borders of countries, for example Chad, where the land is no longer livable on, and they have all of these people coming. They can't go into the country of Chad, but they don't have anything that they can go back to. So it creates an environment there where you have a lot of people, you have very little resources, very little infrastructure, and they're forced to live on this land. So we're going to look this week more about environmental refugees, what causes the factors that can cause them to have to leave their land, and then the problems that they have when they get to an area where they don't really have a home. And this is where the emerging politics of food scarcity is. If we, because of loss of land, because of growth in population, can't produce enough food for the current population, then we're in dire straits. But if you take some of these people and you concentrate them in a small area politically and geographically, then those effects can be magnified. So if you have any questions, please email me and I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.